As the winter sets in, all the cars are more susceptible to breakdown. Now, if your TD5 has developed a non-starting issue, you're going to want to stick around to the end of the video to hear all these tips. Now, I remember flying to the forward base in Afghanistan in 2008 on Christmas Day. In our makeshift workshop, we had a Land Rover sitting in the corner, and when I arrived, I asked someone, what's the deal with the Land Rover? It's a non-starter. And I asked someone, have you tried the starter solenoid, the blade connection, the spade connection on the starter solenoid? And lo and behold, it was a spade connector on the starter solenoid. Now, that was a 300 TDI engine. The TD5 doesn't have a spade connection on its starter solenoid. What it does have, though, is a spade connection on its starter motor. Now, this is prone to coming undone and corroding and basically coming off. So if you go to it and you click it and it's a non-starter, obviously check the battery first. But bear in mind that the spade connector is on the actual TD5 starter motor, so it's worth getting under the vehicle and checking if the spade connector is still on and is it still intact, or has it corroded and fallen off. It will surprise you. Did you know 95% of people who watch my videos haven't actually subscribed? Now, I'll make a deal with you. If this is your first video, I don't expect you to subscribe. But if you've watched one of my videos before, or you've watched a few of them, then please do consider subscribing and get on the journey to the 1,000 subscribers with me. I'd really appreciate it. Now, if my TD5 was cranking and not actually starting, the first thing I would do is I would pump the pedal 5 times, turn the ignition on. I've done it before in a few of my videos to bleed the fuel filter when it's been changed. But turn the ignition on, pump the pedal 5 times, let it do its cycle, go to the back of the vehicle, listen to the fuel pump priming, look for any leaks in the actual filter or anything like that. Look for any leaks in the fuel pipe. Look for any leaks in the engine as well. So this is just basically making sure the fuel system's okay. Now, I would do this up to 3 times to identify a leak. Now, if it still doesn't start after 3 times of priming, this is a separate video and I'll make another video on the fuel system alone. But what you want to do is make sure the fuel pump does prime and there are no leaks on the system. Then you can go to the next diagnostic step. Now, under the driver's seat, I've done this before in my 15 hidden things about the Land Rover Defender TD5. Now, obviously the ECU plug is an easy hitter. Take off the ECU plug, see if there's any oil going into the plug. This would obviously either write the ECU off or stop it from starting. And while you're there as well, there's a lot of relays and a lot of fuel pump relays, what you can either take out and replace, or basically click your ignition on and see if they are actually working. So they'll click if they're working. And obviously take them out and have a look at the actual pins as well. Are the pins corroded? If they are, give them a wire brush, put them back in, give them a clean, put them back in. Now, there's also fuses under there as well. Now, the fuse necessarily isn't always the issue if it's still intact as well. But if it is still intact, then basically really look at the actual blades of the fuse. Is the corrosion on the fuse blade? Because if there is corrosion on the fuse blade, it will cause a short. It will cause an open circuit, and this will cause, obviously, it to be basically like having a blown fuse, but not a blown fuse. So if you take the fuse out and you look at it and go, yeah, that fuse is fine, and you stick it back in, it could still be the pins of the fuse, is what I'm saying. So it's worth checking all the fuses there as well. And the relays themselves have a really common problem about coming loose as well. So, it might just be loose. You might just have to push it back in. There's obviously a lot of vibration in these vehicles over time, especially if you're off-roading as well, you're going up and down. So it's worth just pushing the relays back in as well, just to make sure they are actually seated correctly and there's a good connection there going on. Another common non-starting issue on the TD5 is the crank position sensor. This isn't the easiest to get to, but it isn't impossible. You basically have to take off the air intake pipes, and then below that, the sensor is there. It's just a little 1 bolt job. Undo it, pull it out, replace it. It's a cheap part. It's roughly about £20. You can also take it off and make sure there's power going into the actual loom as well. And also make sure there's not a short circuit on the actual sensor itself by doing a continuity check. The last one for a common non-starter is the inertia solenoid. For this solenoid is basically if you crash the vehicle, or if you roll the vehicle over, or if you basically get some air. If you're off-roading, it'll cut in and it'll cut this fuel supply off, basically only for a safety aspect. So if you are in an accident, it will cut the fuel off. Easy way to check this is basically just push the actual button down on top of it. And if it clicks, that's it, basically reset. So when it does reset, then try and crank it again and it may start. I'm not quite sure why mine is all like broken and things like that, but you can rest assured if my TD5 doesn't fire up I will be checking this first because it doesn't look the best in condition. I don't know what someone's done with it before, but it's not ideal. So if you have got any value out of these tips, do consider giving me a like. It really helps the channel along and it helps the channel reach a broader audience. Now, these tips what I've given, they are basically a starting point for diagnostics. I haven't gone too much in depth of them, but I will do in future videos. I'll see you in the next one.